In the previous video, we learned that Radhakrishnan talks about the richness of Indian culture. He tells us that the unique qualities of Indianness has made us survive through all thick and thin. We have preserved this culture through the ages. Our openness and acceptance has made our culture thrive and deepened the foundation of Indianness even further. We are recognized all over the world for our belief in karma, our cooperative attitude, and our light-heartedness in the face of wrong. He blames the universities for the dissatisfaction and unrest among the youth. Let's read further. In attention to our culture, our universities are to no small extent responsible for the increasing unrest among students. In recent weeks, the lawless activities of some students in some parts of the country filled us with shame and sorrow, and I have had occasion to refer to them and tell the students that by these acts of defiance of authority, they do a national disservice and imperil the future of the country, that they are traitors to the past and enemies of the future. It is crucial that the role of universities in society is understood before mechanisms to promote change are put in place. The student unrest cannot be ignored in universities. It is the unrest of the spirit and soul. The universities must recognize that many serious and troubled young people are dissatisfied today with our society and our culture. The dissatisfaction has its roots not only in the way these young people perceive that society and culture, but in a number of wrongs objectively part of that society and culture. The present generation of young people in our universities is the best informed, the most intelligent, and the most idealistic this country has ever known. The ability, social consciousness, and conscience, political sensitivity, and honest realism of today's students are a prime cause of student disturbances. Learning requires communication, but the impasse between the generations involves a failure to communicate. President Nixon said in his inaugural address, "We cannot learn from one another until we stop shouting at one another, until we speak quietly enough so that our words can be heard as well as our voices. For a mutual interchange to be even moderately successful, however, requires that we drop some of the slogans and habits of thought that block the way. The loneliness, emptiness, and frustration that students feel in their everyday lives have led to the rise of the anti hero. Today's youth does not reject authority, but the hypocrisy which it finds surrounding it. We are in the midst of a worldwide revolution. Much of the restlessness manifesting itself on our campuses and in our cities can be traced to the realization by this generation that it is by no means assured of its future. Youth that grew up post World War II is confronted with the threat of a nuclear holocaust, chemical and biological warfare, and the population explosion. It is a generation in search of a future. As Professor Wald says, the present generation of students has come of age in one of the most turbulent eras of change we have known. Unfortunately, there has appeared in the ranks of our students protesters some whose primary commitment seems to be of violence and senseless disruption. They prefer chaos for the sake of chaos. These people advocate freedom of speech for everyone expressing their particular views. Those in disagreement are hounded off the classroom. They advocate the use of violence. They constitute a danger to the academic community and a danger to the public at large. Today, I propose to point out what we should do to improve the atmosphere in the universities. Students are not trained to approach life's problems with the fortitude, self control, and sense of balance which our new conditions demand. Without this disciplined enthusiasm for great causes, students become a danger to themselves and to society as a whole. This approach is encouraged by a study of our classics. I hope that the universities will pay greater attention to this side of education. The ancient classics of our country have profoundly influenced our society and thought. They established the disciplines of philosophy and history and the foundations of our political systems. In some ways, our ancient classics seem just like us, but in other ways, they are very different. This can lead students to reflect deeply about themselves and the lives of others. An important quality in our modern multicultural society. enhancing the appreciation of cultural differences. While the ancient world may seem remote and quiet, divorced from the problems of the present, the study of ancient history can help students make sense of the world as it is today. The nature and impact of various cultural and religious developments, the responses of societies to complex social and economic challenges, the issues of justice, discrimination, and violence were as much part of the ancient world as they are today. Sometimes we wear blinders that prevent us from seeing what goes on around us. A parable or fable can gently open our eyes. So can a story from history. When we read about the ancient customs, we compare them with those of present times and learn how society has evolved. The ancient philosophers who raised certain questions trouble us even today. Not only do they provide clear ethical arguments, but many of the self improvement books are based on their philosophy. Classics encourage students to cross subject boundaries through thinking that touches on language, literature, and civilization, something which profoundly affects overall learning. The study in classics allows for depth and breadth. It is interdisciplinary as it involves history, literature, philosophy, and the visual arts. It encourages clarity of thought, hones analytical and critical skills. It trains the mind in the comparative use of different types of evidence to pay attention to details. It introduces young people to the finest oratory and skills in argumentation and communication. From science and inventions to law and philosophy to their gods and goddesses and heroes, understanding the influence of classics helps the students have a better understanding of the world around them.